Max built a billion-dollar industry. That says volumes in itself. If you want to generate, if you really want to get into it and get some enormous success for your business, I recommend that you listen to him carefully.
If you don't like what you're doing, you know what? You probably are not very good at it because you don't put the effort, the time, the expertise that you need into it. And so that has served me well over all the years. If you're not very good at what you're doing, you probably need to get another job.
Welcome to the Bouncing Back channel. We're all about picking ourselves back up from a bad fall, and this time, making the success that we want to make. We appreciate having you join us. Now, we all know it's not easy. It can even be frightening, but you got to do it. And we're going to share stories, tips, and advice to help you and your friends along the way. My co-host here is a specialist at falling and bouncing back big time. Hi, Max. How are you today?
I'm doing so good you don't want to hear about it, Tony. Thank you for starting our new program.
Sounds good. Well, actually, I do want to hear about it a little bit by bit.
Okay.
And for our audience, Max built a billion-dollar industry. That says volumes in itself. If you want to generate, if you really want to get into it and get some enormous success for your business, I recommend that you listen to him carefully, soak it up. And to start us off, show of hands, even though I may not be able to see you, a virtual show of hands. Has anybody in the audience ever been fired? Raise your hands. Okay, well, you know, it's not a good feeling. We all know that. And to survive, ... you're forced to bounce back. So we're going to start this off with getting fired. Max, what happened on the farm when you were 13?
I think that probably was the first time I ever got fired. I grew up following two gray mules on the farm back in West Tennessee, plowing behind the back end of two gray mules. And finally, I guess Dad had a good cotton crop one year or something because we got a tractor. But I didn't get to drive it until much later. Finally, I grew up enough that Dad said, go to the field, get on the tractor. So I did. So I'm out plowing in this dusty field, and the tractor stops. So I know a little bit about machinery, not much, but so I tried cleaning the carburetor. I cleaned the spark plugs. I checked the gas, so we were running out of gas, and I could not get it started. I look out across this dusty old field, and here comes this beat-up old pickup truck bouncing across the field with my dad driving. And sure enough, I said, you know what, this is probably not going to go good for me. So Dad gets there, and he said, now what the hell's wrong? I said, Dad, I don't know. The tractor stopped. I've done everything I know to do. I can't get it started. I burnt my hands, getting inside there, trying to clean this up. He said, get out of the way. Oh, boy, so I'm happy. So I get out of the way, and sure enough, guess what? About 5 minutes later, it's running just fine. So he turns around, he looks at me, and he said, I want you to remember this. Stay away from that wheelbarrow if you don't know anything about machinery. So that was about, I guess, the level of expertise I had on machinery. That changed over time, but not a lot. It certainly changed when I was flying helicopters. I had to know a lot about that machine. So anyway, Dad turns to me and he said, look, you need to just get out of here. You're done. I'm firing you. What? And he said, yeah, you need to go to town and get a job in town. Get off this farm. And I said, whoa. Who's going to take my place? And he said, that's not your problem. I'll handle it. So that's what happened. I got fired and I went to town and I got a job in a dry goods store. And I even got a promotion from there into a men's haberdashery. But the point Dad made was, it sunk into me, at least at that point in time, and it served me well, Tony, over a long period of time. If you're not liking the job, and I hated the farm, if you don't like what you're doing, you know what? You probably are not very good at it because you don't put the effort, the time, the expertise that you need into it. And so that has served me well over all the years. If you're not very good at what you're doing, you probably need to get another job.
And if you're not very good at it, you're not very happy at it, and you probably are wishing you wouldn't be there anyways. So sometimes getting fired is just like, it's what you would expect. It's actually a good thing.
It turned out, in my case, to certainly be a good thing. And it was a great lesson from the best mentor I've ever had in my life. And that was my dad.
That says a lot right there about the mentoring.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that another time as well.
Okay.
Now, I want to go, you work for the Men's Haberdashery, which is a clothing store. I don't think we use that word today anymore.
No.
And how did you do there? How was that now from the farm to men's clothing?
Well, I loved it. I think I've always felt like we all are salesmen. Some of us get better at it than others. I mean, someone told me once, he said, you come out of the womb selling, crying. Crying is a form of salesmanship, I guess. And so if you want to be a full-time salesman, you need to work at it. There's a lot to learn. But I think we all are salesmen in one form, in one degree of another. And so I enjoyed the interaction with people. I certainly enjoyed watching them leave the store happy with a smile after they'd bought a suit or a pair of socks or some new shoes or whatever. And so I did. I really enjoyed it. And it was good training for me to learn how to interact with people in a social environment as opposed to interacting with two dumb mules out on the farm. I didn't learn a lot from them.
It says a lot. And I know there's a school of thought that says otherwise about, that talks about just go for the money and not really worry whether you like what you're doing or not. But I find it really helps a lot. I mean, a great lot. If you enjoy what you're doing and you feel like you're accomplishing something good, it makes it a lot easier to do well at the job.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much time wasted if you are sitting around because you don't like what you're doing, as opposed to, I've got a grandson now that is in a haberdashery, men's sporting club, and he has just transferred his personality significantly into one that everybody enjoys being around. He knows how to deal with people, and so I think learning sales, if that's what you want to do, will really lead to some happiness. Yeah.
I appreciate that advice. And to our audience, I want to say, if you want to generate enormous success for your business, I really recommend you devour Max's book.
Oh, thank you, Tony.
The harder I fall, the higher I bounce. Really good stories. And I just don't mean that there's good stories. I mean, you go into the older days. Is that the right nomenclature? The past, you're going back into how things were at a different time period. And it's very, very enlightening. It's highly recommended. It's a very different read if you're not used to reading stories from, a couple decades ago. It's very, very cool. And if you go down in the description below, there's a link. And I just want to thank you all for hanging out with us today. And Max, I want to thank you for coming on, sharing that story. And that's a great takeaway.
Thank you very much. And I look forward to many more sessions with you, Tony, and sharing those humorous stories about failing and then looking at what one learns from failure. You should never fear failure, in my opinion, and that's kind of what we talked about here. Failure is a great lesson, and we'll talk more about that in other sessions, I hope.
I hope so too. And for our audience, what's your bounce back story? We'd love to hear it. And if you like this podcast, please give us a big thumbs up, subscribe down below, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you, Max.
Be good to yourself, sir.